Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining another Ask MNLCT episode. This one is titled Achieve Your Goals Through English Language Learning. And we have a most wonderful program with you with expert panelists from MNLCT. We have instructors, we have former students, we have a special guest speaker from the Department of Imaginary Affairs. Mathura Mahendren is the program manager. And this session is also facilitated in Spanish, in Mandarin, and in Arabic. So if any speakers, any attendees out there that need some support in translation or interpretation, please feel free to send us your questions or let us know and we can help out. But before I kick this off, I would like to pay tribute, our land acknowledgement tribute as usual. It does give me great honor to acknowledge the land that we are meeting on today. So I'm in the Halton region, which is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Now, this is the traditional territory of many nations, and that includes the Anishinaabeg, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe Chippewa peoples, and it's now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada treaties. Some of you are familiar with that. But from my personal message, it's always with an open heart. The ancestors of this land have welcomed newcomers for thousands of years. I'm humbled and grateful to be here in form and in spirit. If there's anything to learn from my journey, is that we give love and honor our Mother Nature as she has bestowed love and to all living things, past and present. So I thank you for that. I thank everyone here today. And we're ready to kick off this show. Great, excellent. So again, for those of you who just joined, this program today is we're going to discuss about how language, English language learning, helps you achieve your goals. So we have with us, I'm going to kick it off with Teresa Wiens. Thank you, Teresa, for joining us today. Teresa is MNLCT's head teacher of the LINC program, which stands for Language Instruction for Newcomers to Canada. So Teresa, welcome on board. I want to ask you, just briefly tell us about LINC for those who don't know what LINC is about and what this program entails.
Yeah, so LINC is the acronym stands for Language Instruction for Newcomers to Canada, and it's English language learning program to help newcomers who are still in some process learning the language, whether they're a beginner or a more advanced student, to come and practice their skills and learn English. And included with the English lessons, there's a lot of cultural lessons too, and it's a place to test and explore your ideas and thoughts and opinions in your second language, whatever level you might be.
Yeah, I mean, you've been running this program for quite some time, and we have some students that are living legends. How is it different than other programs out there? Just briefly, like for those who don't know, why is this so unique? Why is LINC unique as an English language program that newcomers can, jump into?
I think one thing that's unique about the program is that the teachers will respond to the students' needs in a way that maybe other programs can't because of the curriculum or mandate that they might have. So in this program, we've got we've got the general themes, different themes that we can explore, whether it's health, whether it's Canada, whether it's entertainment. But then we really try to respond to what the students want to learn from that class. And so it's pretty flexible, the program, and the teacher has a fair amount of control in that flexibility. We do follow a certain assessment system, which we have to follow the best practices that the the PBLA portfolio-based language assessment has set out for us. But even within that system, we do have a lot of flexibility in terms of what kind of themes and topics we explore. And so that might be a little bit different than some of the other language programs out there.
Yeah, thanks. Just before I carry on, just want to highlight again for attendees, if you, so there's several ways you can, this is an open forum, so we keep this very casual, so feel free to jump in anytime, ask any question. I have to unmute your mic. So if you have a question in any of the languages, whether it's in Arabic, it's in Mandarin or Spanish, you can drop that question in the chat box or the Q&A. I prefer the Q&A, by the way, but if you're more comfortable with the chat room, then you can do that as well. Or you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you and give you the floor, and you can ask a question to any of our panelists, and we'll be more than happy to answer in any of those 4 languages. Thank you for that. Excellent, excellent. So I'm already seeing some of our attendees. There's someone from BC, British Columbia, so that's good to know that we're reaching out to from coast to coast. Excellent. Now I also want to introduce Mathura from the Department of Imaginary Affairs. I know you've been involved with this with our program as well on different levels, but on a project called The Stories of Us. Now, the Department of Affairs, I know it sounds like a governmental department. For those of you who don't know, it's a non-profit organization. And it's been set up to basically connect or bring to light and share stories of newcomers. But Mathura, you can tell us more about that program. What is the Stories About Us, and how does that help newcomers in their English skills?
Right. Thanks, Miles. So the Stories of Us started off as a project to help create English learning resources that actually represent the newcomer experience. So usually for adult newcomers, if your English level is low, the resources that you're using to learn English are often children's books or things that focus on Canadian culture but don't really honor the cultures that you come from. So with the Stories of Us, we work with newcomers sometimes in LINC classes. So we've worked with Teresa's class at Mennonite New Life Center, as well as some of the other teachers there. So we work in LINC classes or employment training programs with newcomers through workshops to help them write their story. So your story starts not when you immigrated, but rather in your home country, going through the process of deciding why and when you wanted to come, the process of immigrating and settling in Canada, and then your hopes for the future. So the Stories of Us workshop series helps newcomers move through that storytelling process, and we provide a lot of support through different activities. And once you've written your story, if you are interested in publishing it, we go through a process where we take your story and have it translated into your home language. So for example, if your home language is Arabic, we translate your story from English to Arabic, and then we make it into a book. So if you go to our website, you can see what the books look like. They have English on one side and Arabic on the other. Or if your home language is Spanish, they have English on one side and Spanish on the other. So Teresa will show you. This is an example of a book. Is this one in Persian or no, Arabic? So this is Sana's story. And you can see the final books have Arabic on one side and English on the other. So these books you can find on our library. They're free to download. So you can get them as PDFs, and it's a way for you to learn English while also learning the stories of other newcomers.
So this project, I mean, obviously, this idea is your department came up with this and has been rolling this out for a while, right? And how does now LINC come in the picture? How did you, what's the collaboration there between you and Teresa's program, or the program Teresa's heading?
So we actually didn't come up with the idea on our own. We were talking with some ESL teachers, just asking like, what kind of challenges are you facing? And some ESL teachers actually shared with us that the resources that they have don't represent the newcomer experience for the most part. So it was in talking to ESL teachers and LINC teachers that we learned of the problem. And then once we started doing the workshops to gather stories, we connected with, one of the people we connected with was Mennonite New Life Center, and they connected us with Teresa. And we actually piloted, we tested our full curriculum for the first time with Teresa's class and Marie's class. So it's one thing for us as a nonprofit to design a storytelling curriculum, but then in partnering with Teresa, we were able to make sure that the activities that they were doing for the Stories of Us were still relevant to the LINC curriculum. So it was a collaboration. And by the end of that, we had created a storytelling curriculum, but also activities that you can do in a LINC class, including assessments and skill building and skill using activities, so that both of them kind of are living together.
It's kind of a full-on program because Teresa shared how, I mean, it's like it went on for like 9 weeks or if I'm correct.
7 weeks, yeah.
7 weeks. But I want to ask you, Teresa, about your experience with this. Like what's the added value features of this project as compared to your, say, routine day-to-day LINC classes? I know you inject a lot of creativity, so I want you to give us give us what happens in those classrooms.
Okay. Well, I think what happened for me when I first heard about the Department of Imaginary Affairs and when the concept was put forth to me about the workshop series that they were doing and working on with the Stories of Us, I wanted to do it immediately because it's storytelling. And I felt at that time, this was, how long ago is it now?
2019. Yeah.
2019. Okay, it feels like even longer, but no, it was 2019. Anyhow, at that time, I was so focused on the new form of assessment that all LINC programs across Canada were doing, which was the portfolio-based language assessment. And I was trying to make sure that I was meeting the LINC curriculum, meeting the best practices of PBLA, and I just I had lost track a little bit of doing some of that more creative, beautiful work in the classroom, like something that the Stories of Us was offering, which was storytelling. As a LINC teacher, you have to really lean into an idea like this. It's going to take up class time, and it's going to take up a lot of time as well. But the time is worth it. And if you're the kind of teacher who can immediately see the power and the benefit that's going to come from doing something like this very fulsome approach to storytelling, then you're going to know that this is going to work really well in the LINC classroom, but you have to be prepared for the time that it takes. So at that point, then you have to think, okay, I still have all this mandate that I have to meet from the LINC curriculum and a PBLA assessment system. So then really it was just a matter of saying, I want to do this. This sounds really fun and meaningful and important. How do I fit those two pieces together? And so once I wrapped my head around how to link PBLA into delivering the Stories of Us program in my classroom, then I was off and running. Like then it seems like a no-brainer after the fact of how to do that and that it is possible. And the process is very meaningful for the people who participate in it.
Absolutely. No. And just give us an idea, like what, before this program, right? I mean, you've been teaching for a while. How has, like, if someone, I mean, I know some attendees here, we have a mixed group, actually. We have some from partner organizations who are familiar with LINC, and some are potential students, I'm guessing, who would probably like to take this program. So just give us an idea of what is this program really about? Like, can they start from any level English, or do they have to not know English at all? I know there's different levels. We have 3 different classes and criteria. So what do they need? Who do you accept into a program like this?
Okay, are we talking about LINC, or are we talking about Stories of Us?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, well, LINC is, we have classes at the Mennonite New Life Center, right from literacy level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Some of them are blended classes. So we have LINC 2-3, LINC 3-4, LINC 5-6. So any newcomer, permanent resident, can join the program. If you're still sort of a newcomer, quotation marks, but you've already become a Canadian citizen, then you would not be able to access the LINC program. You would go to ESL instead.
And is it open now? So can anyone apply? Or is there a certain time?
At our, no, it's continuous intake. So you can join a LINC program at any point within the school term that they're running. So for us at the Mennonite New Life Center, we run from September to the end of June, and a student can join anytime. They can quit anytime. That can be sometimes a bit of a challenge for the teacher, but for the students, it's a lot of flexibility. So yeah.
Yeah, and we'll drop in, and they can contact the center, so by email, or they can call us, and they will, can get hold of the right information, right? So
that's correct.
So our general lines, and we'll drop in those contacts at the end of the episode. But I want to bring in, talk to Claire and Vergine, and bring your point of view. So you both were students in Teresa's class, and today, like, you've been through this program, so that's quite an achievement. And I think people out there, this is for those who underestimate how powerful a skill like language can be, because this is something that we sometimes don't think about until we actually are faced with speaking a language we're not comfortable with. It is an achievement. I'm going to start with you, Vergine. You tell us about it. What is your background there? When did you first start taking LINC, and why did you start taking this program?
Yeah, so I came first time I came to LINC at the end of 2018, when at that time I needed a certificate about my English benchmarks for my citizenship exam. And I thought that I will stay in a LINC class for only 100 school hours. It was the amount that I needed to complete the class. And then I stayed here for 3 years after that, and I participated in a first project, Story About Us, as a participant back in 2019. And then I stayed in class for 2 years, and then I got my citizenship, and I became a volunteer full-time school teacher assistant online, in online format. And I developed my skills a lot. I got much more confidence. I'm not the same person. If I can compare 3 years ago and now, it's much better now.
Oh,
and also I have a lot of friends from there. Like, we are like family, actually.
This is like a second home to you, I guess.
Yes.
So I know we have some questions. I'll get to that in a minute. We have some in Spanish as well, but I just want to just ask you, Vergine, what do you see in the new students that you are now helping to achieve what you achieved? How is that?
I don't know. Now it's a little bit different because we are in an online format, and sometimes people need help. Students need help, and it's a little bit difficult to ask for help in online format. Back in times when we were in in a classroom, when new student came, they always could ask questions to the classmate during the recess time or lunch time. And now me and Claire, we try to help as much as we can out of the class time too. People who just joined, to make them feel more comfortable, more engaged to the activities that we do in a class. But still, I got all this help that I give to others. I got this help from the students back when we were in a classroom. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Amazing. I want to talk a little bit more about your future goals and how acquiring this new skill now is going to help you. And I want to hear from Claire as well. But before that, we just we have a few questions coming in. I know Ling Ling is helping out answering some of those questions, but just for others who maybe didn't catch that online, Maria asks, is this program for people with status? And Ling Ling wrote, and correct me if I'm wrong, she says LINC is for landed immigrants, convention refugees, or protected persons. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, Teresa.
No, just captured it.
And we've added the links in the chat room. So for those of you who are, there's a link to the DIA Stories of Us, Department of Imaginary Affairs, and there's also our website, link to our website where the link, all information about the LINC classes. We have a question in Espanol. Maria Pazmino, are you there still?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Maria. Can you read the question? It's from Ligia or Ligia.
Says that she's been here since the 18th, but she's never been able to go into any programs. If she will be able, I think, to attend. It wasn't complete, but I think that's what she's trying to ask, if she's able to attend the LINC classes.
So I guess, Teresa, for you, so someone's English is, they barely know English, they're Spanish speakers. How can you help them if they can barely communicate in English?
Sorry, is she talking about how can we help them join the class?
Well, it was, I think so, but it was incomplete. But I was just adding to that
because if she's thinking about joining the class and she's a Spanish speaker, she really seriously just needs to call our number. And there are so many Spanish speakers at our organization that I'm probably, if she calls the LINC school, you have the numbers all available there, correct, Miles?
Yes. So maybe can you, Maria, give her the number in Espanol, Eva? This is for Eva. So it's 416.
Okay, hold on. Sorry.
It's here in the chat. I just sent it to you.
416-291.
3248.
3248. It's Hugo, because Hugo usually talks to them and tells them what they have to do.
Exactly, and Hugo speaks Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, can you read the number in Spanish, please?
Yeah. Okay. Aló, sí. Si desea información, puede llamar a este número al 416-291-3248 y ellos le van a dar información cuáles son los pasos a seguir para ver si usted puede entrar al programa.
Thank you, Maria. There is a question here. Someone was asking, they're based in British Columbia. This is for Azam. Is he allowed to take the course?
Oh, he's living in British Columbia?
Yes, that's what he says. Can I enjoy this link from BC?
The amazing thing about COVID is that now you can take these classes from anywhere in the world. So I actually have had a couple of students who are Zooming in from Russia, for example. So yeah, with the Zoom classroom, I mean, the borders disappear. You could join the class from a different province, but that person might also want to join a LINC program somewhere near their house online, but that way when they move back online, back to the physical world, they'd actually have a physical school to go to. But if they were interested specifically in our program, they could do it now while we're online from BC.
Okay.
All right. Excellent.
Miles,
Mhm.
I got the message, so do you want me to read it?
Please.
Okay, I am from Venezuela. I've been in Canada for 2 years. I am taking ESL classes at the moment, but I would like to complete my learning of the language. Generally, I read in English and I understand, but I need more interaction.
So again, I think Teresa, you kind of answered that in a way, right?
Yeah, as long as he's not a Canadian citizen, I don't know what status he has if he's taking an ESL program, but if he's not a Canadian citizen, he hasn't gone through that process yet, then he's more than welcome to join our program as well.
Okay. We have a question here. This is from an anonymous attendee. He or she is asking, one of my concerns about learning English with you is how we will be supported to reach the level required to get a job. Because currently I have been learning a lot of grammar from some stories, working on a platform and reading lessons, but what happens in real life is different. And this is what I need to focus on in order to communicate and understand what they ask me and how, and know how to respond appropriately. That's a very good question, actually. Teresa, I'm going to give that to you. Go ahead. Give us your.
Well, okay, I'll give a quick response, but then it might be good for Claire and Vergine to talk about their experience about that as well. But at our school, and in other LINC programs too, not just our LINC program, but we do focus a lot on communicative language, and we do want students to gain confidence speaking English. And so our lessons are very much focused to be interactive so that students do have to communicate their ideas, their opinions, so that it's not just a static learning experience where the teacher is doing all the talking. One of the big things is that at our school, and whenever I'm even training new teachers, I talk about the image of holding a ball, and I say the teacher should not be holding the ball for too long. You hold the ball long enough to set up instructions, get the activity going, then throw that ball fast to the students, because they're the ones who want to practice learning the language, and they're the ones who want to start to feel confident speaking the language. So the confidence issue is a real key piece for me personally in the classroom. That is my goal with every lesson, is how can I support and improve the students' confidence in English. But maybe Vergine and Claire would have some thoughts about this too, because they have been students of mine, of other teachers in our program, and I think they would both say that they feel more confident.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a very good point. Claire, you and I were talking about this earlier, about how you became more confident since you took this class. Before you get into that, I want you to tell me about your story, because you had a business at one point, and you struggled with that business because of your language skills.
Yes, of course, because before I choose to Canada, I never worry about my language, because I know in Canada there have a lot of Chinese people. I don't need to even speak English, but it's not true. I have met a lot of problem because of the language. I can talk. I need to communicate to the another people, and I believe in our class, especially our class, yes, I feel like the small community. Because Teresa always teach us a lot of the gambits. We just follow the gambits, and we have a lot of the talk. It's helped. I have a lot of time to practice in the class time.
And when Claire says gambits, what she means are these beautiful little language phrases. They're high frequency phrases They're phrases that we use for different reasons. Maybe we're trying to clarify a problem and you're trying to clarify with another speaker. You could use a language phrase like, so what you're saying is blah, 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 blah. So that little phrase, so what you're saying is, or I was just wondering if, those kind of little language chunks, we call those gambits. So that's what Claire is talking about. And she knows that in my classroom, I love them. And the reason I love them so much is because you can use these little tiny language phrases to express your idea for different situations. And the rest of your sentence, the grammar, can go completely wrong and bad. And the person listening to you isn't going to even hear that the rest of your sentence isn't perfect grammar, because you've started with this strong, high level, advanced language gambit. And you start your sentence with that, and the listener is going to think, oh, they know English so well. And it's very clear what they're trying to do here. And then it doesn't matter what your grammar is like after that, because the purpose of what you're trying to communicate is there through that language gambit. And I teach them a lot, because I always tell my students, I said, it can make you sound fluent like immediately. You use these little language gambits, and we use them for all sorts of different activities, for all sorts of different purposes. And once the students get used to using those language gambits, because they're fixed expressions, you always use them the same way. So you just have to memorize them, remember which ones to use in which situations, and you immediately go from maybe beginner speaker to advanced immediately by using these gambits. And the students are really good at them too. Like, they are able to use them pretty quickly, pretty fast, and they can feel that their ability to communicate, not just inside the classroom, but outside the classroom, moves up.
Mathura, you know this quite well with your program. What sort of how have you seen? Tell us a little bit about those success stories and how the people that you've worked with, who have that you've published their stories, you know, how have you seen them overcome those limitations? How, you know, what's the end result at the end of the day? I mean, you publish those stories, but I'm sure there's stories behind those stories. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to look at the success of the Stories of Us program, but one way, for example, is just looking at the loss of confidence that can come when you're going from, like, a lot of newcomers have worked in their home countries and have extensive experience, whether that's formal work, entrepreneurship, or working at home. And when you come to Canada, we often, you know, our settlement sector often tells newcomers, like, you need Canadian experience, and if you don't have Canadian experience, then you don't have any experience. And I think in the process of working through the Stories of Us, we focus the first part of the Stories of Us on the experiences that you've had back home. And then we draw on that experience, and then we have activities where you can brainstorm your skills and the skills that come naturally to you, but also the skills that you've developed with practice, or skills that you've developed just out of necessity because you've needed to. So in that process of validating all of the experience you've had both before and after immigration, both experiences that you've planned and wanted, but also experience that you didn't plan and didn't want, but you still developed skills from it. That process of doing that for yourself, but also in the Stories of Us, we create opportunities for you to share with your classmates. So Vergine and Claire can tell you that in the Stories of Us, when they were facilitating, they each facilitated different breakout groups. This is on Zoom. And in the breakout rooms, when you hear other people share either very similar stories to you or very different stories to you, your sense of confidence around, oh, my story matters and I'm not alone and I'm not the only one, that increases. And when you get that feedback from people who are in a similar place in life to you, that builds that confidence that your experience is worthy. And for the most part, like, confidence is half the battle, because once you feel sure of what you're saying, you feel more comfortable. Even if you make mistakes, it's kind of like what Teresa said. You put something like a gambit in front and it doesn't really matter. As long as you know what you're saying in terms of your story, which is what the Stories of Us helps you do. And this is where the LINC and the Stories of Us collaboration happens, because we focus more on the stories and getting the stories out of you. And LINC provides a really good structure for, okay, but how will you say this at an interview, for example? So Teresa did a lot of work with our curriculum around how do you take what you learn from your story and make it useful for an employment interview, for example.
I wanted to share, I mean, there's a lot of what goes on in the classroom. I wanted to share some of those, achievements that you've done when it comes to the Stories of Us. So I prepared just a little slideshow here. I'm just going to share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
All right. So this is can you still see it, right? Mm-hmm. This is one of the projects that you did, the latest Stories of Us, right? Teresa, I think, was this Vergine's, was this yours?
No.
Or someone else? Can you briefly tell us what's going on here, Teresa, or anyone, or Vergine, or?
Sure, Vergine could. Go ahead, Vergine.
Yeah, so it's we called it the nature walk, which shows our journey starting from when we started school, and it shows our achievements, our learning, employment, and educational journey. It doesn't matter in our home country or here. It just depicts our achievements and our growth.
I just want to quickly just point out, Teresa, you were telling me about this is exactly the Stories of Us, and it's an employment. It's journey.
So yeah, what this was, like Vergine was saying, it was to sort of symbolize a nature walk, and you on this was just one tiny little activity that sort of was the springboard for what came next. So the students just drew out their life as a nature walk, and it would include education, employment, and then they would talk about their story. And this was captured under the interview question, "Tell me about yourself." And that was workshop number 1. That was the first workshop. But what we did after that was we said, okay, now you've had the opportunity to tell your story in a very open-ended kind of way. But now let's take a look at that interview question. So the interview question is a common one. It usually starts the interview. It's "tell me about yourself." And then we really looked at, now how would we actually answer that question in a real world interview? And that's what Mathura was saying, that we would take the curriculum from Stories of Us, which was very beautiful. And it's a beautiful starting point, because the starting point that the Stories of Us has is you're not anxious about the content, because it's your content, it's your story. So it's immediate, it's there. The students are able to share their story, their nature walk. And then what we do after that workshop is we get into the messy bits of it and say, okay, you've got a job interview. This is the question. How would you answer that question? And so we used the Stories of Us curriculum, which was just such a beautiful foundation and starting point. I can't say enough about it. And even if you were a LINC teacher or a LINC program that might not have time for the second half, which is what I did, and that's that I take the interview question that each workshop is inspired by, and I broke it apart for the students, and we analyzed it, and then they wrote new responses, and they practiced those responses, so that they had an opportunity to write responses to interview questions, practice the response. And I did it sort of back and forth like this. I went from the Stories of Us curriculum into expansion activities, which each workshop was inspired by.
You know, it's interesting when you bring your classes have always have that element of art. I mean, I've seen your classes in person before the pandemic. Obviously, I've walked in there and seen them always doing something. Whether it's Valentine's Day, they're cutting out crafts, and it's always fun. Or Halloween, they're dressed up. But bring this element, it's fun element, but very creative. Brings out, I guess, a lot of emotions and ideas and a thought process. So this goes back, Mathura, this goes back to you, to your these kind of projects. You collect these and then you publish them after a while, right? So it must be quite amazing seeing all these different talents from across the country. You know, these collection of ideas and creative works.
No, for sure. And I think even though the activity that everybody does is the same, the outcome is so different. Like if you're seeing one nature walk, sometimes we do a river. So like my life as a river, and each person's will be different. And, you know, sometimes we think that, you know, we're adults. Why are we doing art? Why are we, you know, being creative? This is about getting a job and learning how to write an essay and learning how to write an email. But sometimes that, given the kind of everyday stress of trying to settle, whether that's your citizenship test or getting a job or childcare or something like that, we find that, you know, when there's sometimes people are like, why should I draw? And then they start drawing and they realize they have so much to say. And sometimes we struggle with speaking because we're not confident in our English, and we struggle with writing because we're not confident that we know how to write. But when it comes to the things that you learn when you draw before you learn how to write as a child. So in some ways, connecting back to those abilities, people, you know, start off saying, I don't really have much to draw, and then make a big painting. Or like make a long liver, like look at what Vergine's doing over there.
Exactly. Like case in point. So Vergine, can you tell us? Are you quite artistic to start off with? I know you dabble in art. You've been artistic from a young age, right? So you
yeah, I don't remember when I drew this. I think it was at the beginning of the lockdown last year. And somehow it was connected to the class, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but because, I mean, this is part of the class. You were, I remember you did some work, but I mean, this is something else. You're bringing in, you're bringing your creative elements now back into the classroom as well. So, you know, which is amazing. Like you're inspiring others, I guess, through art.
Yeah, we do that. We share everything together, and we have our WhatsApp group, and we share lots of information, our work, our like everyday life. We try to share, and we get feedbacks. We get some tips and tricks to support each other, and it's a very good opportunity to develop writing skills too in our WhatsApp group.
That's another student as well, with you know, with their works of art. I want to. So this picture, there's been an Oscar ceremony in your classroom, Teresa.
Yeah.
About it.
So this was at the very end of the series of workshops that we did with Stories of Us. The Stories of Us, both their curriculums, the first curriculum that we did with them, and now the second curriculum. The second curriculum, like we were saying, was more focused on employment. Every workshop was inspired by an interview question. And at the very end of the workshop series, once we had gone through the Stories of Us curriculum, and once we had gone through the interview questions in more depth way as well, we celebrated. And it's built into the curriculum that Mathura designed. And this was our last class where the students were going to get a certificate for the completion of work that they did. And at this workshop, because, you know, we still make them work hard, the students also had to give an Oscar acceptance speech So again, they had to write a speech, and they had to give that speech at this Zoom celebration. And it was a lot of fun.
It is fun. I could see Claire as well. I noticed in your presentation, this, what is this image about? These
I'm so glad you asked, because it's a lovely image, which again, Mathura included in the curriculum. And this just goes to also the talent of how Mathura is able to write these beautiful curriculums, even though she's not an ESL teacher. I mean, I tell you, she's tapped into something here. But this image, I'm going to actually let Vergine explain this image, because she's the one who would often talk about this image in our class. And it's the starting point of the workshop series. And it really speaks to even that gentleman who said he really wants to build his confidence. And Vergine, can you tell us what this picture means?
Yeah. So this is the very first picture that we showed to our students at the beginning of implementing our curriculum. And this picture represents our thoughts, and because it's like tangled different ideas and memories and our experiences that we gather during our whole life. And when at the beginning we said to the student, we need to talk about the story, a story about our employment and educational journey. So each one of us, we were like, oh my God, where we need to start? Because in our brain, the picture like this tangled threads and everything. But at the end of the curriculum, we put everything on the places, and we are so much confident about our journey, and we are much more confident talking about our past. And we are ready to answer a bunch of questions, interview questions in a real life, in a real interview. We have practiced it all in a classroom. And many of our students, they go straight to the work when they graduate from our program, or they continue their journey to in a college. So, yeah.
And there is this other one, really briefly, because there's a few questions we want to get to, but I kind of like this one because this kind of summarizes the journey from your class, what you're talking. This is also with the Stories of Us?
Yes, it is. And maybe Mathura could speak to this slide.
Sure. So this slide comes up in the last workshop. So before the Oscars ceremony, we show students or participants the journey that they've been on over the course of the 7 weeks. So each number represents each workshop. So this is kind of like a summary of the process. So in the first workshop, you heard about the nature walk. Sometimes we draw it as a river instead, so it changes. And the first workshop is really about, let's write down, draw out the main moments in your life that you remember. It's about getting a whole full picture. We don't need to go into detail, but just a full picture. And then in the second workshop, we focus, if you have your whole life river in front of you from workshop 1, in the second workshop, we focus specifically on your early career and your early education. So for a lot of people, this is when they were younger and back home in their home country. And like I said before, we do this because we want to bring value to the experiences people have had at home. So we asked them, who are your career inspirations, and like what drove you to study the things that you did or do the work that you did back home. We also talk about successful career moments in your past. And then in workshop 3, this is kind of the middle of the workshop series, we talk about the fact that when you immigrate to any country, you come with expectations. And what you often encounter is a slightly different reality, if not a very different reality. And that means you might have gained some things that you didn't expect, but it also means you might have lost some things. And we often find that people have a mixture of gratitude to have immigrated, but also grief, because what you expected is not what you're finding in this country. So part of why we talk about that is it's hard to think about your future when you haven't grieved the things that you've lost in the process of immigrating. So we talk about that and we hold a space for that. And then in workshop 4, then we start to unpack our skills. We've already talked about our previous experiences. And now that we've acknowledged our grief, it makes it easier to talk about our skills and what we're good at. So we spend some time also talking about why it's hard to talk about our skills. Depending on the cultures that you come from, you know, sometimes it's not good to brag and you're told to be humble. So we talk about all of that, and then we talk about specific skills. So skills that you're naturally good at, skills that you maybe weren't good at, but you said, I'm going to get better at this, and you got better at it. And then skills that just out of necessity you've developed. Workshop 5, we focus on the future. We do an exercise that has to do with meditation, and you're really immersing yourself in your future 5 years from now. And it's very detailed. So when you come out of that meditation, you have a free writing exercise where you write down everything you saw, and then in your groups, you talk about it. Is it what you had expected? Or did you learn something different? Did you realize something different? And then in workshop 6, you put it all together. So workshop 6, we give you a template where you have questions from workshop 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's basically all the questions you've already answered. You're putting it together, and the way they're ordered, it's meant to be a coherent, cohesive story. So workshop 6, in Teresa's class, they actually did a really interesting process where they wrote a draft of the story. They shared it in their small groups. The groups gave each other feedback. Then they went back and added more detail or made it more compelling, and then came back and presented it to be recorded. And then workshop 7, like you saw, is the Oscar ceremony. So taking some time to celebrate. Usually in the typical immigrant journey, you're often chasing one milestone to another because there's so much urgency around it. And we wanted to create a space to celebrate that. So
Thank you
that's
so
the
much.
full journey.
That is amazing. Looking at that now, I guess it kind of sums up what's being done in the classroom. I guess this LINC, from my point of view, the way I'm seeing it, it's more than just learning a language. It's about empowerment. It's about trying to achieve your goals, and that's empowering your social skills. Your, I mean, there's emotions in there. There's mental stimulation. There's social interaction. It's a gamut of things in one classroom, and it's very colorful. So I can see how inspiring and how what made success stories out of people like Vergine and Claire, like you are living legends, as I said. So very good work, excellent work. While we were talking there, we kind of ignored the questions coming through. We are at the end of the episode, but if I may, if everyone is okay with it, just want to just get to a couple of those questions, if that's fine with you all. It's we do have well, I guess it's more of a comment from an attendee. It says it's really a matter of trust, how to overcome some difficulties that you have during an apprenticeship. Some teachers recommend teaching as if the adult was a boy. So I guess more of a comment there. I mean, every I guess every classroom and every teacher, they has his or her own technique, right? So it's really down, I think, to the individual to make that judgment of what route they want to take in life. But overall, I just see a success story here. I think most of the questions were answered by our team. And there were some questions that were more about settlement, citizenship. So I think a lot of our attendees are used to these webinars. We we cater to all, and we work with different newcomers in different areas. So if anyone here needs assistance with any other area other than education, you're more than welcome again to contact our team, contact our office, and we will direct you to the right department and put you through to the right person. So again, we support obviously in English, but also in Arabic, in Mandarin, and in Spanish. So you can call our line and you know, ask to speak, ask for someone who can speak with you in one of those languages, and be more than happy to, you know, to help you out. So anything to do with settlement, we can help you with, or our bridging programs. And there's a lot of workshops, so stay tuned. Always check our website and subscribe to our social media channels. We'll be more than happy to assist you. Again, if for those of you who haven't been checking the chat room, please you can copy paste all that information in there. There are links to the Department of Imaginary Affairs Stories of Us library, so you can read about other people's stories. You can read about stories from the classroom, Teresa's classroom, as well as others across Canada. Again, you can find out more about our LINC program. So I want to leave last words to Claire. What would your last words be for this program? Not your last words, but
actually, okay, I don't know what can I say here. Okay, sorry.
What would your message be, your inspirational message to potential students who are listening to us today?
Actually, I'm looking forward to meeting the new student join to our class, and I believe something if I can do, I believe everyone can success to that part too. Is that the word?
Amazing. What is the? I wanted to ask you this earlier. I know we're out of time, but what is your plans for the future now that you've gained these skills?
Actually, I did have some plan. Actually, I want to find a job after this pandemic, because yes, I really need one. I want to be independent woman.
That is very good. That's very aspirational. What about you, Vergine?
For me, I need to open my business, and also I am looking for a full-time job right now. And I hope I will succeed. Yeah.
Well, I mean, amazing. You got two entrepreneurs. Not just you're creating jobs. Let me know when the right time comes. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Mathura, for sharing your thoughts and joining us today. We really appreciate your time and all the effort. Teresa, it's always a wonder to have you join our webinars. So thank you so much for everything you've been doing behind the scenes, and so thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. This is going to be on YouTube, so you can always watch it, and we'll send you the links. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All of us. Thank you.
Thanks.